The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are those of the individual guests. If you're a sensitive snowflake that may get easily offended, then turn this off immediately. If you want to hear the real truth about the gun culture, then stick around. This is the Armed Citizen Podcast. What is going on, my Go Squad? Welcome to the Armed Citizen Podcast Live. This is episode number 182. We are streaming live, as always, on YouTube and over on Facebook. So if you're out there, make sure you say something in the comments. We don't know that you're out there unless you say something. If you want to call in, yes, you can call in. If you want to call or text into the show, the number is scrolling down below. I believe, Gary, is it not? I think it's scrolling down below this time. But you can call or text into the Ghost Tactical Hotline presented by our good friends Rod and Shelly Gates at the Gun Cleaners. So come and clean it. If you are a veteran out there and you're in that hole and you can't seem to find that light or don't know if the light's out there, first of all, I want to say, please contact me 24/7. You can call, text, email, whatever you want to do. Get a hold of me. I can't give you medical advice, but I sure as hell can probably be a pretty decent ear and maybe talk you through some stuff. If you are looking for someone that can give you some medical advice or point you in the right direction, please understand two things. One, you're not alone. And two, this world is a much better place with you in it. So please contact the Veteran Crisis Hotline at 1-800-273-8255. Once again, 1-800-273-8255, the Veteran Crisis Hotline. And as always, we're going to spotlight the United States Marine Corps. If you have any questions on what it takes to earn the title United States Marine, visit the website www.marines.com. Man, that's a mouthful. Tonight, we're going to have a fun show. We've got a pretty good panel. I've got some other invites out there. If you guys want to join, great. If not, it is what it is. But we're going to have some fun and all that jazz, talking about budget guns and gear and accessories. I know Mike is like, what? So we're going to talk about all that stuff tonight. About I was
going to say, damn, you're not even going to wait for me to leave to talk about me. Hell.
No, I talk about you all the time behind your back. It's all good, but I do talk about this guy. And it's nice the fact that you're off. I'm gonna go ahead. You're muted.
So you wouldn't be the first.
I understand. I'm going to go ahead and lead off with you since you're here from I guess it's a great state of Ohio. The state of Ohio, Mike, right. You can tell if it's a great state or not.
It is wonderful.
The owner, founder, creative director of Budget Guns and Gear, and also the host of the Right of the People podcast. What's going on, Mike? How you doing, buddy?
All right, man. Glad to be here on this one. Thanks for the invite, man.
Well, it just so happens that you're off on the night that we're going to talk about budget guns and gear and all that. So it worked out well. So when I sent the email, I said, I hope to God Mike's off tonight. We only get you about once a month. So
yeah.
Thanks for coming on, buddy.
Hey, no problem, man. Thank you.
And from the great big sky of the country up there in Montana, we got the Rogue Banshee. What's up, Holmes?
Not much, man. It's nice to know that we have constitutional carry in Montana now.
Oh, the governor signed it and everything's good to go?
Governor signed it a couple of weeks ago. We are a constitution carry in this state now.
Well, welcome to the dark side.
Yeah, man. But thanks for having me on. It's going to be a great show.
I think it will be fun because there's a lot of new gun owners out there, and there's a lot of people out there that are looking to get into stuff, and they're being told, and not saying they're wrongly being told, but they're being told by a lot of people on YouTube and our forums or on Facebook groups and all that they're basically being shamed and all that. So we'll get into that in here in a second. From the great state of Kansas, the non-tactical Kansas, we here in Arkansas are the AR Kansas. We are the tactical Kansas. The proud recipient of a new toy today, I believe. But we've got Gizzard Gary. What's up, Gary? How you doing, buddy?
Hey, not a whole lot. Yeah, just enjoying looking at this thing that I won last week. So, and thank you very much for that, by the way. And thanks for the invite.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was really happy that you got it. It was one of those things. I was talking with Clover, beforehand. He was pretty much the only one that knew that I was going to kind of do a surprise kind of giveaway stuff. And I said, I really hope that someone who gets the gun is going to be someone that's been around for a while and a patron and a friend. And you fit all those. I know, are you a patron, but I know you since basically day one of gun channels from when I was in there. We've met in person many, many times. So it's one of those where no offense to anyone out there that just subbed in the last week or two or month or whatever. Love you guys, but I'm glad that the gun went to someone that's kind of been here since the beginning. It's kind of an awesome thing. So appreciate you. And Gary's out there and he's almost getting ready to hit the 1,000 subs. So guys, if you're watching this or listening to this and you have not subbed to any of these guys, go sub to all of them. Mike's coming up on 10,000. Rogue, where are you at right now? Are you coming up on a milestone?
Just shy of 4,000 right now.
Okay. So let's get him to 4. Let's get Gary to 1,000. Let's get Mike to 10,000. Clover's going to get to 10,000 pretty quickly. So let's get out there. And we've got Sarge is out there getting ready to hit 10,000. Gun Snob just hit 20. He's going to pass me here before too long. I know Obnoxious just passed 5,000. So it's kind of a cool thing, man. There's a lot of the OGs that at least OGs for me are really having some success and all that. So it's really nice and all that. It looks like, yeah. So Jacob said that looks like Clover's being a ghost on the panel. He's the only one that had a camera. He doesn't run his camera unless it's his Monday night chat that he's running, or he's on a bigger, much more elusive podcast than this. He slums it for us, but that's okay. It's all good. No one really wants to see that mug anyways.
It's not about me. Not about me.
It's all about you, but it's all we love that.
We love that you. Why do you gotta look at me? I don't understand this fascination. It's like
I want to see your pretty face, man.
People. Well, that's the problem with society. Quit looking and actually listen and pay attention, folks.
So you want people on YouTube to quit looking? I'm just trying to figure this one out.
You don't throw on stuff on YouTube and just listen to it in the background?
I do all the time. Most of my time is listening to podcasts on YouTube without watching a thing. So it's all good.
Exactly.
Speaking of this fool right here from the great state of Texas, the tactical virus, Leprechaun himself. What's up? How you doing, man?
I just want to say I could care less if you are out there and you subscribe to me, but for heaven's sakes, go watch some stuff, please. That's where it's at. Well, I could care less about subscriber numbers. Just watch the videos, man. More importantly, share if you have the opportunity.
No doubt about it. We got a good crowd out there. Nice little holy cow, Jeff's trying. I guess it's Jeff. Someone over on Gear Report's trying to cork us. It's all good. It's all good. But we got some good conversations going out there. I can't go through all of them. I wish I could. I'd say hello to everybody. If you're new, let me know, and I'll definitely give you a shout out if you're new and all of that. So I think everyone that I see is pretty much regulars and all of that. If not, then I apologize, but I will scream you out if you're new. Let's start off with Jacob. Jacob, as we know, is a young man who just kind of got into firearms, or the lifestyle, if you will, in the last year or so. And he sends out a question or a comment. He said, in his opinion, what if budget means is the amount of money you're willing to spend for a specific item in which you feel safe with knowing is a quality product? And that's a great thing, because I think that, and guys, Rogue and Gary and Mike and Clover, we've all done this a long time. We're all good friends. So you don't need to feel free not to have me call on you. Let's just have a great conversation and all of that. But I think that's, for me, that's the biggest thing that people have a tendency or a problem with the word budget, is they automatically go to cheap. And when they say cheap, it doesn't necessarily mean quality. And there's a lot of quality products out there, whether it's firearms or accessories or optics or whatever, that are budget friendly, that do not necessarily degrade the quality that goes into it. So I'm gonna start off before we go open forum here. I do want to start off with budget, since he is the Budget Guns and Gear Review. When you first started your channel, obviously it was based upon budget gun and gear reviews. Did you get a lot of comments in a negative way or positive when you first started out talking about budget items?
Both. I got a lot of hey, great, someone that's showing stuff that everybody can afford. That's awesome. I also got some comments of, oh my God, cheap guns. Ugh. To me, budget isn't necessarily about the price point. Budget is what I call the value to cost ratio. In other words, does the value of the item meet or exceed the worth of the price? It's is it worth the money you're spending on it?
Yeah, because let's not forget, the word budget means something different to everybody. Everyone has a different budget that they're willing to spend on XYZ item. I guarantee you that the budget that I have on a firearm is going to be much different than Donald Trump Jr.'s budget to spend on a firearm. I mean, that's just a way of life. And people need to understand that when you hear budget, it doesn't necessarily mean cheap. It just means it's budget friendly, which means you're going to get, to me, it means you're going to get a decent quality, or maybe a quality that's acceptable or even comparable to something that might be at a higher price range. I'm going to start with Rogue here. If no one wants to jump in, I'll go around the room if we want to do it, if it's easier that way. Some people like that structured side, but Rogue, I'm going to sit there and say to you, when you hear the word budget, whether it's firearms, optics, anything, TVs, radios, whatever it is, do you get scared away from that word budget?
No, I actually don't, because I actually like to replace budget with value. I was an FFL for 10 years, and I've seen people come in and out, and I've helped a lot of people get their first guns and second guns and 20th guns and stuff like that. And especially some of the new people, they're like, this is something new. I don't have a lot of money. I'm like, that's okay, because you can still get quality for a decent price and then still deliver that value of you having a gun. You're going to shoot it. You're going to enjoy it. And welcome to the club, because, I don't have an unlimited budget either. I mean, would I like to go out and spend $2,000 on a handgun? Yeah. But you know what? I just don't do that. I'll stay somewhere around the $500 range, $500 or $600 range. So budget means different things to different people. Like you were saying, you have a different budget than Donald Trump Jr. So do I. Between the two of us, we have a different budget of what we'll spend on a gun. So I like to say a value. Is what you're buying going to deliver value to you? Is it going to be the end all be all? No. But if it's going to, especially in a gun, if it's safe, you're going to enjoy it, and it could potentially save your life one day or protect your property, then great. What's that worth to you? How much money do you have? And let's figure out what that middle ground is.
Sure. At least figure out where that line is and say, as far as quality or reliability, this is what I'm looking for. So now what fits into that price range? And for me, I know Gary's a lot like I am, have got some nice guns, but most of the time I've bought my guns for two things. One, for a specific purpose, and most of all my handguns are going to be guns that, most of them I can carry some of them, but most of them were bought specifically for concealed carry or competition or whatever. But even at those, I'm not going to go and spend $1,000 when I can go and get something for $300 or $400. And I know that, between Glock and you got some Rugers and you've got different things that those guns for you fit exactly what you're looking for. and didn't break your bank. So when you were buying, especially when you're first getting into carry and all of that, Gary, when you were first buying your firearms, was price one of the determining factors of what you were going to get, or you just went kind of on off recommendations?
When I first started buying guns, yeah, I mean, I was looking at stuff in the gun counter, and everybody, when you're first starting out, they say, buy a Glock, buy a Glock. That's what you need, Glock 19. And I looked at them, was like, wow, that's a lot of money for one of those. And then I looked over next to it. Here's this Taurus PT-111 G2 for half the price. It's like, similar size gun. And I've heard a lot of good things about it. Why not try this? So, when I first started out, I didn't, the perceived value for $500 or $600 gun for me was like, well, if I can get something that does what I need it to do for half that price, I'm going to do it, especially if it performs. And it did, and it continues to this day. I mean, some things aren't a bad investment as long as it fits your need, if it fits your hand, if it performs and shoots like it should. Can you take it to the range and put rounds on target with it? Certainly can. Does it, fit the way you want to carry and stuff like that? If you can check off all those boxes, and why not save a few dollars if that's the way your budget is? I mean, if you've got $50,000 to spend on guns, then that's not a concern for you. But for a lot of people, especially first starting out, they don't know what they want to commit to this. They want something that they can carry. So, and I think, once you've owned or two and maybe had a chance to evaluate it, you may think differently. But I think a lot of people starting out, they're trying to get by, for as little as possible. So they're going to look at things like that. And the sales prove it out. I mean, you look at the sales numbers for stuff like that.
Yep. Well, and you look at, first of all, I got a text from Snob, and apparently Google deleted one of his messages. So he was putting hate speech out against Chef Boyardee out there. So I think Travis has someone on YouTube staff that's looking out for him a little bit, but it is what it is. No, but I think that what I think a lot of people do when they're first starting out, I think they're looking for a good deal, unless they've just got enough money to just sit there and say, well, everyone says that this HK VP9 is amazing. It's a $900 to $1,000 gun. I'm going to go get it. Most people are going to sit there and say, before I jump into a $1,000 gun, let me go jump into a $300 to $100 gun that is decent to see if I even like this or not. And I think a lot of people do get shamed. And I think that that's sad, because ultimately that person is making that mental decision to take their protection into their own hands. And then they've got someone within our own community going, you don't want to buy that piece of shit or whatever. It's like, shut up. Quit shaming. It's what it is.
Let's see. Ooh, you bought a Taurus. Ooh, you bought a High Point. Ooh, you bought a PSA. Ooh, you bought a Bear Creek Arsenal. Ooh, you bought. Name it. I mean,
I own all four of those. I own something from all four of those companies.
Not Bear Creek yet. I will, but not yet.
I've got a lower, and it works fine. Got no problem with it whatsoever. And it's one of those things where it's like, shut up.
Yeah, in the near future, I'm going to make some of the AR snobs' heads explode, because I'm going to slap a Bear Creek upper on an Anderson lower. The ultimate Frankenpour rifle. Right.
We got a super chat there from Roscoe Truman. I love that name, Roscoe. I just love that name. $9.99. Thank you so much. In case you guys are new to the channel, new to the show, all super chats, we're not asking for them, they're greatly appreciated, but all super chats go to sending care packages to our troops downrange and overseas. So thank you so much. But Roscoe says guns are like tattoos. Once you get one, you want more. That's a great analogy. It's for someone who's got a lot of ink. It's very, very true. And yeah, I could definitely see that analogy. I want to bring Clover in here, because I know Clover has worked with kids and worked with a lot of people that are kind of just starting out. And when you're giving advice to people for guns, I'm not saying you go to a particular gun, but when they start asking you about guns that are probably quote unquote budget, I know you're always looking for a good deal on guns. But when you hear the word budget, do you try to steer people towards those or away from those, or just try to explain what they are?
Well, the problem is that for me, it's where am I going with this? You got to look at the need and the expectation versus the price. So have I got firearms I paid $50 for? Yeah. Do I expect them to ever protect my life or be a daily carry firearm and 100% reliable? No, never did expect that when I paid for them. Still don't expect it now, but I certainly get $50 worth of enjoyment out of them when I go out and shoot cans or steel or something like that, right? So expectation versus use versus cost. It's an algebraic formula, and I hate to bring math into the conversation, but it is, right? That's how you determine, to me, that's how you kind of determine budget. So for somebody's need that is, okay, I'm getting into this, but I'm kind of new, but I want to get more into the competition sector. Well, guess what? The variable that is use is going to exponentially increase that budget on that, right? The person that's getting into it just to become familiar, to use it at the range, they're not even going to use it for home defense necessarily or carry or anything like that, at least right away. They want to use it for familiarization and fun. I hate to say the sky's the limit, but the floor is the limit at that point.
Yeah. Well, you're also looking at, and you bring up a great point, but you're also looking at purpose of, let's say, a firearm. What was the purpose of that firearm? Absolutely. If it is to go and plink, or just to have and occasionally go out in the backyard and shoot at some trash cans or some squirrels or whatever, that's a different budget than you're probably going to have a budget for a gun that you're buying to protect yourself, your house, your property, your family. And I'm not going to say that a high point at $150 isn't a worthwhile firearm that can protect you and your family. But I think most people might be willing to spend a little bit more for something that is primarily there to protect life, liberty, and all of that. Again,
and to interject another thing in it,
open conversation. Go ahead.
So does having a budget, cheaper, whatever, I guess, definition you put on it, cheaper firearm, maybe starting out with that, right? Does that potentially create a situation to where you pick up better fundamentals? Because you don't have the crutch of a really nice trigger. You don't have the crutch of really manageable recoil, all of these other things. So therefore, your skill, your dexterity, your grip, your breathing, you really got to focus on all of that, because that's not a crutch. So at the end of the day, starting out with budget stuff, right? One of the things that have been really big proponents of is archery, for example. And you start out with a stick and a string and you go from there. Why? Because that's like the lowest common denominator. It requires a lot of skill, requires you to pay a lot of attention to those fundamentals and everything else. Just about anybody can pick up a compound bow that is set up, draw weight, draw length, everything else for them, and nail bullseyes. Picking up a stick and a string and doing it requires a little bit of skill. Now, once you build that skill set and then you put that person into a compound bow, there's not a newbie alive that can just pick up a compound bow and compete, because you've got the same equipment, but you've got a whole different level of skill set at that point.
Yeah. Pat out there, $5 super chat. Thank you, brother. Appreciate it. He says, got a Smith & Wesson M&P 15. Not sure if it'd be considered a budget rifle, but it was in the price range. Once again, budget means something different to everybody. Back before
somebody say that's a poor rifle. There are
Absolutely.
people that say that's a rifle for the poors.
That's right. I own a couple of them. One of them is right there. And I swear by the M&P 15. I've got a Sport and a Sport 2. Love both of them. But I think ultimately it comes down to what you're willing to spend for what you're willing to get. And if you're willing and able to find something that's going to maybe not be exactly what you're looking for, but give you, let's say, check off the vast majority of those boxes and save $100, I think that's probably something that people are willing to do. There was a couple things down here that I saw. One of them was from G, and he says, "What would you bring along in case of emergency? The cheapest one you can buy." Well, and here is something I want to let you guys jump in and feel free to jump in. But this is something that it's said a lot in this conversation is if you've got $200 right now, maybe save another month or two and be able to afford that $300 gun or whatever. And if you're able to do that, then by all means, there's nothing wrong with that. But there are some people that are literally in a situation in their life that they need something they can get now.
Immediate.
And
yes.
Immediate.
Yep,
and the last thing that we need to do as a community, welcoming some of these people into our lifestyle and our community, is to sit there and say, you don't want that. Wait a month and afford something else. They may need something today. And why in the world would we shame them because they bought a High Point or something like that?
I've been in that situation in my line of work when I had to go to court and I got actually someone's kid taken from him because he was a complete cuckoo and dangerous person to be around. And then threats were made against me. At that time, I happened to have a bad case of broke and I didn't have a gun. I took my last $150 and I went out and I bought the best thing I could afford right then, which was a High Point 380. And I had that until I could save the money to get something good, something better. And that's the kind of niche that those types of guns are for. I mean, and you know what? I never had a problem with it. Were there better pistols out there? Absolutely.
Well,
were there lighter pistols out there, smaller pistols out there, more reliable pistols out there? Yes, but even on the reliability issue, I had zero problems with it. So
coming in here, I'm going to flood the chat up. So
hey, also,
everybody,
when you get done making your comment, read this comment. Rome out there says, need a good crossbow. He's an old guy, needs to get rid of his compound bows. Once you get done with your statement, can you point him in a direction of a good crossbow? Go ahead.
Yeah, probably. Anyway, we deviated back down into a trap here, and it's one that I see a lot. And again, that's why I mentioned use as one of those variables, because we deviated back into this whole self-defense, protecting your life, right? So, I go by whatever it is. I throw a picture on Instagram, I throw it on social media, and somebody is inevitably going to say something about it, right? Ooh, cheap piece of junk. That's a piece of garbage. You know what? Shut your mouth, because who cares? Maybe I know that, right? And maybe I got a smoking deal on it, and maybe I'm only going to shoot it twice a year, if that. You don't know. It's not like I posted that and said, oh, here's my new self-defense pistol or whatever it might. You know what I'm saying? All I did was put a picture up. Hey, look at my new gun. And then people assume that's the only gun I got. Ha, that's laughable. And then, it's like, come on, people, open mind here. Now, for who was that had the question?
Let's see here. Let me go down here and find it. I think it was Rome.
I haven't seen him out in the chat, I don't think, before. So, yeah, welcome, Rome.
I haven't seen Rome either. So, if you are new, welcome, Rome. At least new to the chat. Thank you.
Something about the crossbow.
Yeah, he was
looking for a crossbow because he can't use the.
Yeah,
the
that's
compound.
tough, man. I know young people that have blown their shoulders out and stuff. I mean, it happens, unfortunately. To me, crossbow is cheating, at least until I get so old as to which I can't use my compound bow, and then I'll be in the.
Well, that's what the questioner said, was they're getting to the age where they can no longer use a compound bow. It's time to switch to a crossbow.
So I will probably one day be in Rome's position. I would look into 10-point stuff. Honestly, we're talking about value, bang for the buck, budget. They're definitely not the cheapest out there, but pretty solid stuff.
See, for me, a crossbow is because I can't shoot a compound bow worth squat.
Well, learn.
I,
You need a good
I
teacher.
can't hit the broadside of a barn from within the barn with that thing.
Well,
I've never shot one, so I don't know. One of my good buddies around here owns an archery shop, and I've never. I think the only time I ever shot like a bow and arrow is like one of those in your like the youth camps you're growing up, and we used to go like to a place called Sky Ranch. I think Clover's probably aware of Sky Ranch down in Texas, but you would shoot bow and arrows and stuff like that. But that's like I might have shot 3 of them in my life, and that's the only thing. It is what it is. I know there's some going on out there, guys. They're saying messages are being deleted by the Google moderator team.
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with me. It's not my mods. So if whatever you were trying to say, maybe reword it or understand that that's the way it is. And I'm sorry, but it is what it is. I don't know.
I would be interested. I would be interested, clovertech@gmail.com, to know what you're putting out there that's being moderated.
Well, I can tell you that like the first one that happened was Snob, and he sent me a text, sent me a screenshot, and I hope he doesn't mind it. He was joking around. It says, "I hate midnight range TM." That's all I said. And I think the word hate must have triggered it, I guess.
Yeah. Context. They've got some algorithms and other things now that's monitoring context. One thing that was really weird a few weeks or a month or so ago, nobody could put redneck out there in the chat for whatever reason. It was
really
tagging that. Yeah. And I actually had a conversation with YouTube about that, and that's a hiccup, a catch, because that could be used as a disparaging remark against people, even though I use that term lovingly. And thankfully that only applies within the context of other words in the chat. So that's kind of what they told me. It was a completely different system, non-related to videos, comments in videos, things of that nature. But yeah.
Let's see here. I'm trying to go through. I'm sorry. There's a lot of great comments out there. If I don't put yours up on the screen when we discuss it, it doesn't mean that I haven't noticed, but there's just a lot going on. There's over 50 people in here. It's a really good conversation, and I can't get to all of them. So I'm just kind of picking and choosing. Defense Dad says, when considering a budget buy, don't overlook used stuff as long as you are, you know what you're looking for. That was the next thing. Is there is a great after used market, pre-owned, hell, even police trade-ins, and all. There are a lot of markets out there that you can get a quality firearm for, let's say, half the price that you could have bought it 5-10 years ago, that are still going to run. You look at the Glock Gen 3s. Now, I've got 4 Glocks, and they're all Gen 3s. Okay, love them. But here's the thing. Those Gen 3s are not new. No. They're and they still run just as good as anything that's brand new. So you can go find a lot of times at 19, or especially you can go find a lot of 17s, or a lot of the Smith & Wesson M&Ps, semi-autos that were out there. The police trade-ins are using a lot, and they're probably going to be good. Now, will you need to maybe get another spring or maybe a guide rod or something eventually? Sure. But unless those things are, and we, no offense, but we know a lot of those police trade-ins haven't been shot a whole lot, so they've probably just been broken in. So don't disregard.
You'll find a lot of holster wear.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Probably a lot more holster wear than barrel wear, honestly.
Yep. I had a distributor one time that I was buying Glock trade-ins. They had a contract for Amtrak to swap out their Glocks. So I was getting these Glocks in. That's what it was. They were holster wear. You look down those barrels; those things were great. They were dirty because the cops went out there and shot them for their last time, and then they traded them in, didn't clean them. But definitely don't shy away from police trade-ins, because generally, especially something that like those Glock guns, they had a specific serial number for Amtrak, and they were maintained by an armorer for Amtrak. So all those guns were maintained. They got new recoil springs every once in a while. And eventually it was, they got traded out for a newer model, but totally don't disregard old blue guns. Those are probably one of the greatest deals out there.
Absolutely. Gary, Mike, Clover, anything?
Nope,
Talking
I
about
agree completely.
Trade-ins or used market.
I agree completely. Make sure you know what you're looking at, though, and you can spot problems with something, or take someone with you who is familiar with the mechanics of it, who can spot problems before you warn parts, even minor things that might need replaced, or spot major problems, cracks, bulges, stuff like that. But
Birds.
if you know what you're looking for, know what you're looking at, you can get some great values on used guns. Particularly if the person selling it doesn't.
This is
Just
true.
saying.
Yeah, Snowy out there says, hell, I love my budget 1911 in the collection, which is a Remington R1. All springs are Wilson Combat, as well as a few other parts. And he's out $599 for it total. Can't get a Kimber for that. No, you can't.
Wouldn't pay that for a Kimber.
Yeah, well, there's a lot to be said about Kimber. They look great. I've never owned one. I've shot many. A bunch of the 1911s. Most of the 1911s that I have shot around here are Kimbers. A lot of the old guys out here love them, but they all will say that they're finicky.
Yep.
So yeah, they are.
We'll figure.
I've seen so many Kimbers in competition just fail. You get through halfway through a USPSA match, and they're in the safety area cleaning their gun. I can appreciate a Kimber. I love the tolerances, the real nice tolerances, and what they do with them. But I'm a practical shooter. I want the gun to go bang every time. And if someone gave me a Kimber, I would love the hell out of that gun. But I wouldn't go out and do competition with it. I probably wouldn't carry it.
I might have to trade it for a couple Glocks.
There you go.
Because they work.
Up until about a year and a half ago, my competition gun was a Glock, and in IPI I run the CCP division, so I run a Glock 19. I think now it's going to be that Canik. Sorry, Glock. I know that I might be cheating on you a little bit, but speaking of Canik, now before we go into Canik, because Canik's one of the things I want to talk. Canik, the Tauruses of the world. But Roscoe, 499 super chat. Thank you, brother. Says love the show. Just hoping cancel culture won't get a hold of you. I'm not worried about it. If they do, I'll find somewhere else. I've got a B channel. We'll figure it out, brother. We'll figure it out. I don't lose sleep worrying about the cancel culture and all of that stuff. I try to, everyone that knows me, I'm pretty much an optimist. I like to turn shit into silver as much as I can. And so, yeah, I don't try to worry about it. If it happens, it happens, and we'll go somewhere else and we'll have a discussion somewhere. But thank you for that. Let's see here. Someone was asking about polymer 80s. I can't remember. Sorry about whoever it was asking about polymer 80s. Okay. I've never built a polymer 80, and I know that a lot of people are getting into, especially with the 3D printing of it. Hell, Pincus is going fucking berserk doing them right now. For me, I've heard a couple things. One, I've heard it takes about 5 or 6 of them before you kind of get it down to where it's actually going to function. The first few from a lot of people say that they're just not very good until you kind of get it down. If they ever function. So that's why I kind of stay away from them. And most of them are going to cost about $150, roughly $150 to $200 for a polymer 80. And by the time you go get a slide and a barrel and a spring and a guide rod and all of that stuff, just go buy a Glock, real Glock. But you're not,
I built a polymer 80. It's not that hard as long as you take your time. After about 5 or 6 of them, you're probably down to about a 15-minute build. It's not hard, especially since it's a Glock. There's also not a lot to a Glock.
Yeah, but I heard that the first couple are, they may not function at all.
It depends on what you're doing and if you're paying attention. If you're paying attention to what you're doing, it'll function first time, no problem. The one thing about an 80% build is you're not doing an 80% build to save money. No matter what gun it is.
No,
you're there.
You are doing it
or whatever you're looking for.
You're doing it for other reasons. You're doing it for either having the understanding of a gun, or having the pride of building your own gun, or something that does not have a serial number, and there is no registration to that firearm as well. You're never going to build an 80% gun for price, ever.
Nope. I'm building mine, and I started it just for that, exactly what he said, to get more familiar with the innards of it without taking apart my factory guns. That's it.
Yep.
I wanted to know what makes it tick better. So if I really wanted to customize my stock Glocks, then I could do it, and I would know how to take it apart, put it back together, what should go where, how it all interacts, how it functions properly. That's why, because of my first AR I bought, after that I assembled, and
I've never built one. I've never built it.
It gives you a lot better understanding of how the thing works to put it together. So I decided to take that road, go down that road with a Glock.
Yeah, I've never built an AR. Now I have ARs that I've taken everything like this. Basically, the only thing that is the original is the shell. I've taken barrels out, I've taken springs out, I've taken BCGs out, triggers. Nothing except for the actual shell is Smith & Wesson. That being said, I've never built one, but I have gone through and replaced basically everything within them to where they're basically a build at that point. But I have not gone and said, all right, I'm going to go buy this lower. I'm going to go buy this, and then put it together. Luckily with this, especially every part that I had, well, until I had that installed or got it in, it was a functioning rifle. So it wasn't like I couldn't shoot it until I built it, which is nice. But I've never built an AR, and that's something that I want to do. I was going to do it last year with my daughter, build one for her, and then we found something else that was already made that we got for her anyways. But yeah, I know that I'm fascinated with. I'm not a gunsmith, and I don't know. I'm not mechanical, and most people don't know that about me. I don't know anything about mechanics and all of that stuff. And so for me, it's interesting to kind of figure out, especially when you're training out a trigger or something like that, to really kind of see the internal workings on this piece relies on this piece, and this piece relies on this, and this relies on this. So it's an ever going circle of how everything works together as a machine. It's really fascinating.
Well, that's also, we're talking about budgets. That's also something to look at is, you might buy a rifle like an AR-15. And you're going to pay, $400 or $500 for it, but maybe you want a high-end three gun rifle. Well, you can gut that rifle and do anything to it in the future. You don't have time to, or you don't have the money to get a good trigger into it. Okay, well then, in a couple of months or a couple of years, you got a couple of $100. You just put a new trigger into it. And then you can upgrade these guns. There's very few guns that you can't upgrade these days. After the aftermarket industry is catching up so fast that, okay, great. You can build your dream gun later. Just get the shell now, and if it's working, awesome. Go out, shoot it, enjoy it. As parts wear out or break, or you have money, upgrade it. Make it your dream gun.
Absolutely. Mike, go ahead. I know you were going to say something earlier.
Well, another reason to do it is so you can get exactly what you want. I think it kind of dovetails with what he just said. For instance, damn it. Secondary reason I'm building this is because I've always wanted a G17 size frame and slide with a 19 size grip. And that's what this P80 has. So hell yeah. Decided if I can't buy it, I'm just going to build it.
Well, and a lot of people, when we're talking polymer 80, we're talking Glocks. Okay. So a lot of people want maybe some different colors. They want a custom colored frame for whatever that they don't want to put through the serigrating process with plastic. They just want to go ahead and do that. There's a lot of it. They want different kind of stippling. I mean, there's all sorts of reasons why people would want to do a
brought up about stippling it yourselves and whatnot. So yeah, I know you can get neutral colored frames and or really light, almost white colored P80 frames and dye it whatever color you want.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Using
Now, G has a
liquid
great
diode.
point. He says, G has a great point. He says, do we report 80% of the stream when you were holding that up? So, yes.
Possibly.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. The Google team's out there already, so they've already been notified of.
That was not a completed firearm.
That's correct. That is correct.
That was
And I think a lot of it goes down to, as people were talking about Tauruses and all of that. So when we're talking about brands, if you're out there and you're new to our lifestyle and our community, or you're thinking about buying your first gun and you're listening to this for some ungodly reason, is to get some advice. I don't know what the hell's wrong with you, but let's answer some questions. There are some companies out there that you're going to get a pretty quality firearm. I've said for the last year and a half, personally, that, and it's growing to be my favorite handgun, period. But I think it is the greatest handgun in the world for the price is the Canik. We're talking about budget. And I'm not saying it's a cheap gun. It is cheaper than a lot of guns, but what you're going to get from that Canik is going to be equal to the quality of something at least twice its price. And I'm not kidding about that. When I say that, the trigger, the internals, the feel, the everything about it, fiber optic sight. I mean, Gary just picked his up today, and this is your first Canik. How do you compare to some of the other guns that you've got that are probably more high priced than that? And you can show it. I don't care. Let them kick me off. I don't care if you want to. Not going to bother me.
Yeah, I can show it. It's a beautiful piece of work. I'll say
he got the Canik TP9 SF. SF, was it just regular SF? Yeah.
Yeah, it's an SF. There it is.
5.
But now I'll put it down. But yeah, it's put together really well. I mean, you can just feel it. But I didn't just hear that from you. I've heard it from the people I hang around with. Gun Snob, Bob Noxious One, Sarge. They all have raved about the triggers on the Canik. Said probably the best trigger they've ever filled on a gun and stuff like that. And they really enjoyed shooting them. So I've always kind of wondered, okay, what is it about this? I need to experience this. And thanks to you, I get to. Not that I couldn't have bought one. I mean, obviously I could have, but
getting one for free helps.
Well,
that's the best budget, is a free one.
It does, but if you can get something like that many people rave about and put right up with these are people who own more expensive guns. I own more expensive guns, but just, I haven't shot it, obviously, so I can't really give you a great review or anything like that. But just from fit and finish, I put it right up there with anything I own.
Yep. And they mentioned some other companies out there. SAR, I think, once again, I know that it comes from Turkey. Both Caniks, I think it's Janik or whatever, but Canik and SARs are both coming from Turkey. So people won't buy them because of that. I don't give a shit. I'm not buying them from Turkey. They've already got their money from whoever is selling it to me, so I'm not paying them anything. But they're great guns. And oh, by the way, if you shoot shotguns, I would say that, I'm not going to say the vast majority, but I would say the majority of shotguns in the world are made in factories in Turkey. Just saying, no matter what the brand says on there, a lot of them are made in Turkey and all of that. But they're great guns. SAR is a great one. I picked up a gun yesterday at the gun shop, a Taurus G3. And I've never owned a Taurus. I've shot many of them and never owned one. I'll tell you what, for a gun that's retailing for $300, and a lot of, maybe not now, but even a month ago, people were find them for $300. I'm pleasantly surprised. It feels phenomenal. They've got some grip tape that is built into that grip. It is a great feeling gun. I've put about 100 rounds through it, not one hiccup. And I've got a video coming out Saturday, the first video on that coming out this Saturday, so be looking for that. But if you're a patron, you've already seen it. But yeah, there are some great companies out there, and that's the thing is like Taurus, for instance. When it comes to semi-autos, and let's put the PT92 aside, because that was built in a factory with parts that was a Beretta. I mean, it's basically a Beretta with a Taurus stamp on there. And that's a great gun for all accounts. But as far as the company made Tauruses, they didn't have the greatest reputation for the semi-autos up until about a year and a half ago when that G2C came out. And finally people said, oh, Taurus has actually made a decent gun. The G3 has even come out and they've changed even some more stuff. So, just because a company at one time was not good doesn't mean that they haven't made huge strides. So don't ever just discount a company because 5 years ago someone on the internet said that they weren't very good. No matter what you get, you can go get an HK, you can go get a nice SIG, you can go get a Colt Python and spend $1,000 on some of these guns. There are lemons out there. That's the reality. There are guns, even though that gun is great, you might get a bad one, and utilize customer service and talk to them and say, hey, I'm having this issue. If the company's worth a damn at all, they're going to take care of whatever problem that they have. Now, there are some guns that are just trash from great companies, and no offense, Smith & Wesson, but that SDV9 that you guys put out, even the 40, might be the worst handgun you've ever created. I would not recommend that gun for anyone. And you can get it for under $300. That's a budget gun that I want to say, track record proves that you're not getting the quality for the price. It probably needs to be taken off the market completely. It is what it is. Let's see here. Snowy, I'm going to try to go through some of these comments. I'm sorry, guys. Guys, jump in. But Snowy says, speaking of Taurus, I randomly found a mag for a G2 or something sitting around my house. I never owned one. That's interesting. Must have picked it up at the range or something. Who knows? Have you guys been watching the chat? Is there something I need to go back and mention? Anything crazy that it seems like we need to talk about? Jacob has a question for the panel, so let's do this. If you were going to have a dream rifle, shotgun, handgun, so let's say a 3-gun setup, if you were to have a dream, you build it yourself, or is there a stock one on the market that fits the bill? I'll start. I would say that I am probably not going to build that kind of for that. I'm probably gonna go buy and then maybe upgrade. Like for a rifle, I'm probably gonna go buy me an HK 416. Phenomenal. No, it runs great stuff. I might want to go get a different trigger. But that's me. I'm not mechanically inclined. I don't feel that I could build something myself that would be the quality of me going to buy, because I know that my limitations mechanically are limited. So for me, I would feel more comfortable going to buy something than to build it myself, because I don't think that I would do it justice. Let's start with Clover on this one. Clover, rifle, shotgun, handgun, would you build it yourself or buy a stock or buy something that's in the market?
We're talking dream gun stuff. It's going to have to be buy, because for me, it's going to be things you just
I'm not going to be able to build a minigun.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, for me, a lot of old West stuff. You're not going to build that kind of stuff.
I'm not going to build an MP5, a real MP5. I'd go buy the hell out of it. Yeah.
So sure. It would be buy. Yeah.
Yeah. Butch, what about you? Buy or build?
I would have to buy, because my dream guns are milsurps. I'd love to have an artillery Luger. I want an SVT 40, and I really want an FG 42. Can't build them. Gotta buy them.
I didn't think about that aspect of not being able to build them. You're right. You're going to have to go buy those. I guess technically
you could get your SOT. You could get your SOT.
There are ways.
Millions of dollars in a machine shop and people to actually run the equipment.
But now it's going to cost you $1 million for that gun.
Right.
Yeah. Gary, what about you? Buy or build?
Afraid I'm gonna have to buy. I'm kind of limited mechanical skill myself, and besides, I'm not real sure how you build a shotgun. I mean, you could take a shotgun and maybe put a different stock on it, put a different barrel on it, perhaps, but just to build it from scratch now.
Oh, hardware store, it's possible.
Well, that's true
We're not-
because
we're
Kent's
not
not
gonna
bad
go into
one
that
that
right
built out of 2 pieces of pipe.
I just said it was possible. That's all I said.
We know that the Google team's out there, so we're gonna sidestep that manner.
Totally legal in the United States to build your own firearm, by the way. Come on.
Just because
I
it's
got a
legal in the
couple
United
pipes
States doesn't
just
mean
for
that
that purpose
platforms
right over there.
talking about it. Doesn't mean that platforms like us talking about it. Yeah. Rogue, what about you? Buy or build?
Depends on purpose. I have my competition gun is build. That's one that I've built up and
What do
changed
you
parts.
shoot? What do you shoot, by the way?
For competition is a SIG P320 X5.
Okay.
But the frame is an 80% frame.
Now, is it an 80% frame? Because I know that, especially with a 320, you can get grip adapters and different grips because the frame itself is not what's serialized. That you can take off the grip of a 320 and get different ones. Is it actual an actual 80% or just adapter?
No, it is the serialized part is an 80%. So I've built that one up. I did a video about how to build them on my channel, but that one's the actual one I compete with. The actual serialized frame that was in there is I have so many P320 parts. I just built another gun out of that. So out of competition, I shoot that. For my rifle has been updated. That was one that I built. That was just a lower that I bought, and then I completely built that rifle from the ground up. Shotgun is off the shelf. There's some very minor modifications, but yeah, I would just buy on the shotgun because I just don't know many other avenues of building a shotgun without at least buying the receiver.
Absolutely. My buddy out there, Kagan, says, good luck trying to find the FG42. No kidding. If you can probably find them. They're out there.
There's even semi-auto repros out there
shape for a decent price,
I think there's even a company that makes a semi-auto repro, but it's somewhat pricey.
Yeah. What was that? Is that was that a 7.92?
Yeah, it's the full Mauser caliber.
The full Mauser? Yeah, man, that would be kind of full. That would be fun as hell.
Can you imagine that thing in full auto? Holy crap.
Man, that's that would be fun. I've never shot one. That would be something that I would probably love to shoot one day. If you ever get one, I'm coming to Ohio and we're going to shoot.
Absolutely.
I'll make a trip to Ohio for that. No joke. All right, so let's kind of not shift thoughts, but shift ideas as far away from guns. Before we do that, I want to go through the room real quick. I'm going to start with Rogue. If you could talk to someone that is new to the community or looking to get their first handgun, and let's say we have a $500 budget for a handgun, what would be the under 500 under normal times, obviously, what would be the handgun that you would recommend to someone that's got a $500 budget that you would send them to?
I would recommend a handgun that fits their hand. I've helped a lot of people buy their first gun. You may look at a gun and say, this is the gun I want. But when you put it in your hand, if it does not fit your hand, it's not the right gun for you. So I look for ergonomics and whether the gun fits your hand. I used to always tell people, I go, the gun picks you, you don't pick the gun.
Absolutely. Kind of like the one in Harry Potter, right?
Yeah.
I'm a Harry Potter nerd. Big shout out, $35 from G23 Super Chat. Thank you, brother. He says, happy every second matters. I forgot to mention that. I put a post up this morning on it. It's interesting because the way that February and everything works, February's every second matter. It was on a Tuesday we had it. And then because of the 28-day month of February, we get it now in March, which is kind of cool. It doesn't happen about once every, I guess it'd be like 7 years or something like that, they would all, maybe more than that because of leap years. But it's interesting that Yeah, we got 2 months in a row on a Tuesday for Every Second Matters. So yes, happy Every Second Matters. Gary, and before we go to Gary, we were talking pre-chat, I think maybe about the Taurus G3, and I said it feels so good in my hand, and that to me is important. It sounds weird. SIGs, I think SIGs are phenomenal guns. For the most part, SIGs don't feel good in my hands. CZs, especially the steel frame stuff, they don't feel good in my hands. 1911s, for the most part, don't feel good in my hands. That's the reason why I don't buy those. Not because I don't think they're great guns. They just don't feel right. Ironically, this G3, I put it in my hand and it felt really good. And there's a lot to be said. I was saying before the thing, there's a lot to be said. When a gun feels good in your hand, you're naturally going to have a little bit more confidence in yourself and that gun just because it feels good. The SAR 9 may not be the greatest gun in the world, but that is probably honestly the greatest feeling gun that I own because it's the VP9 grip, and I love the way a VP9 feels. But I think a lot of it does it. The way the gun that fits your hand, you're going to have confidence right off the bat because it feels good. So I think there is a lot to be said about that. Good point. Gary, $500 budget. What kind of gun would you throw people towards with that budget?
Well, I would definitely have them look at the Taurus G3 or the G3C, something like that. But it may or may not be the gun for them. But that would be definitely a good one to look at, this Canik here. Anything like that. But I think you're totally right. They need to pick them up, hold them, perhaps even if they get a chance, shoot one at a range. But definitely come in as low as you can because you're gonna have to buy some ammo, and that stuff ain't cheap anymore. So
that's true. That is true.
Yeah, I wouldn't have any problem with that.
Yeah, Kagan says the 1911 doesn't feel good because I have small hands. I know I have small. I've never said that I have large hands. I have teeny tiny hands. I can't do anything about it. I can't go get a hand implant. It is what it is. But honestly, to me, it's funny that most of the time when I have a gun that comes with adjustable back straps and all that, I always put, like, if it's got like a small, medium, or large, I end up usually liking the feel of the large. I don't know why, but they feel better to me. So it is what it is. For sure. Mike, what about you? A $500 budget. Is there something that comes in your mind, since you've probably done reviews on a shit ton of guns that are in that $500 range in your life, or at least shot them before? Is there something that sticks out in your mind? It doesn't have to be a new gun. It could be something that could be a trade-in or a used one, but something that sticks out in your mind that says, man, this has been a great gun for a lot of people.
Again, with the caveat that it fits you.
Absolutely. Yes.
Because it could be the most awesome gun in the world, and if it don't fit you, it isn't worth a shit to you. For instance, if you handed me, gave me the choice between a High Point and a Beretta 92, I'm picking the High Point because the Beretta 92 don't fit me at all. So
get out. Get out.
I'm saying I'd be more effective with the High Point.
Exactly. No, I hear you.
But with that caveat in mind, there's a couple things. If you're talking a pistol, a semi-auto pistol, you can get trade-in Glocks for that. You can get the Ruger SR series, which is a great pistol. You can get, for a smaller gun, the Ruger LC9 and EC9. Those are great pistols. If you're getting the striker fired. Tauruses are you know what, like you said, they've come a long way, and they're not top tier, but they damn sure ain't bad. If you want a pistol caliber carbine for under $500, that sucker right there behind me is pretty much freaking top notch. The Xtar EP9, that is a great PCC, and it comes in at $450.
I've been waiting almost a year for mine, and I know there's craziness going on. They're behind.
You have to haunt their website in order to find it in stock and get it.
No, they're supposed to be sending me one. It's been
really?
Because and I said, look, I want you to fulfill back orders. It's not that important. So there's no telling, and I can't wait. I've heard nothing but amazing things about that EP9.
Love that gun.
I'll give you another one, and people are going to laugh at me. And I've said this. I'll go to the top of the mountain, and you can laugh at me all you want. I don't care. You want a good, solid, reliable pistol caliber carbine for $250? Get the High Point. They're heavy. Telling you, you can talk trash about a High Point handgun all you want, but if you ever shot one, you won't be able to talk trash about a High Point carbine. They're damn good carbines. They really are.
The only thing that sucks about them is the magazine capacity and the takedown of it. Other than that,
the red ball,
red ball,
the 25 round, I think 20 rounds. Yeah. But I mean, yeah, you're right. But if you're just talking about if you know, and someone mentioned up there, you can go and get,
as far as just shooting it, shit, man, 995 PS is awesome.
Yep, for $250 in normal times. For $400, you can get yourself a pistol and a carbine that shares magazines. Not saying they're going to be the greatest, but they will run and they will save your life. Just saying. All right, Clover. Be prepared because this could go in any direction. I have no idea where this is going to go, but you have a $500 limit. What quote unquote budget gun would you be willing to send someone who's getting their first firearm?
Again, it goes back to what are we talking about? Defensive measures, or just they're going to play around with something, or do we have any more caveats other than that?
The caveat is you've got someone who's looking to get their first handgun, and let's just assume it's going to be for personal protection. Let's just assume it's going to be for
a defensive thing. And the reason I asked, I mean, even that doesn't narrow it down much, because honestly, the dirty truth is there's a lot of options for under $500. Walther has some stuff. Smith & Wesson has some stuff. Ruger been mentioned already. Taurus has been mentioned already. Carr, Bursa. Who am I leaving out? Obviously, I'm even leaving out Canik and SAR and Gerson. Yes, yeah. So a lot of stuff under $500. I mean, just there's so much out there. So I tend to side with Rogue and say all of the above, and then look at anyway all of the above, and then whichever one kind of the fit, finish, feel, all that good stuff to you is better, and go with that one.
Absolutely. I got a text from Mario out there, and this is interesting. This is going to be for the panel. We're going to change shift lanes here for a second. Interesting question. He sent two. I want to ask this one first. Changing the subject on you all. Running your AR without the buffer retainer and spring. I met a guy at the shooting range who does this. Your thoughts? I have no thoughts on that. I've never heard of that. Anybody heard of that at all?
Without a buffer retainer and buffer spring?
And spring.
So how do you open that gun without that buffer shooting across the room?
Well, you don't have a spring.
So without a buffer,
he's talking about. I thought he was talking about the buffer retainer and spring.
Oh, is he talking about the buffer retainer and buffer retainer spring?
Yes. That's what I thought.
Yeah, he just says buffer retainer and spring. Yeah.
Yeah, it's got to mean the buffer retainer spring. Yeah.
Because you would need the spring for the buffer, or else that bolt carrier is going to come back and stay.
That buffer spring serves a lot of different purposes. Yes. Yeah. So if he's talking about the retainer spring, the little detent little spring thing,
I don't know why you would do that.
I don't know.
Yeah, that would be. You would really have to be. I mean, I guess you could draw the charging handle back enough to where it was just perfect, and you could then crack it open. But man, that'd be awful finicky. I wouldn't do it.
Yeah,
I wouldn't either. I think the main reason for that design is ease of disassembly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Mario says that they're both missing.
Is it a critical component? I don't know that it's a critical component for operation, but
yeah, I mean, I guess you could do it, but
yeah,
it's not going to be reliable.
Yeah. And
I don't even know that would mess with reliability.
I don't think
it would damn sure make it hard to take apart, though.
Yeah. I've actually put them together without that before, and so
on purpose.
I've also built and not screwed the buffer tube in enough for it to catch.
Oh yeah, sure.
Probably done that at some point, which creates the same thing. And yeah, getting them apart is can be finicky. But yeah, everything once it's all bolted together, everything lines up and all of that. So the only thing is that keeps it back out of the way is the only thing. I don't think it'd be. I'm trying to think what could be. I mean, could it create a drag issue with the bolt because of the spring and all would be coming forward more? Possibly. That's an interesting. It's an interesting question.
Thanks,
But
Mario,
in
for
a
that.
pinch, I'm pretty sure though you could run it quite some time without it being a problem.
Yeah. Rod out there says, "What's the advantage? Is there an advantage to running it that way?" Off the top of your head, I don't know, but I mean, you guys, is there an advantage? Like what I'm saying is, if someone was to choose to do that, why would they choose to do that?
You're saving 1/4 of an ounce.
Mario said it broke and jammed his trigger, so I assume the end of that thought is so he doesn't run with it now because he had one break before.
Yeah, so he's not running on with it by choice. Gotcha. There, that might answer the question right there. Jacob out there says, "What would you do?" And we'll go this to the panel. What would you do if a firearm that you ordered online came in and upon first use at the range it shatters into 1,000 pieces? What do you do? Now the question is, Jacob, did you order it from a company or even a gun shop or something, or did you order it, or did you buy it online from a private person, a private sale? The reason why I say that, it really doesn't matter, because if you buy it from a manufacturer or a gun shop or whatever, a warranty is going to be involved. That being said, I don't care if it's 10 years old. If the first shot, 1,000 pieces, any company worth anything is going to at least take a look at maybe getting something for you or taking care of it somehow, some way. The first thing I do is make sure I had all my body parts. Make sure that everything was still there. Because if a gun explodes into 1,000 pieces, it's going to take part of your skin / bones / flesh probably with it. And I hope to God you were wearing safety glasses, not just sunglasses or reading glasses, because there's a good chance that you've got a piece of that shit splintered in your eye and you're screwed at that point. So, Gary, run with you. First shot of a gun, 1,000 pieces. What do you do?
Well, if it's a new one, you get a hold of the manufacturer and let them know what happened. A lot of them will stand by it. I mean, even if it's something as inexpensive as a High Point, they've got an excellent warranty. If something breaks, they'll fix it. So would any reputable company, I would think. Glock, Smith & Wesson, Ruger, SIG, on up there. But if it's something you bought secondhand from somebody, your options are limited. So
they're going to be limited, but I would still
let's still mention it.
Yeah, the Smith & Wessons, the SIGs, the CZ, the Glocks, the Rugers of the world. If you were to contact them and say, "Look, I did buy it from a private party. Here is a gun. I was able to make out a serial number out of the shrapnel, if you will. I don't know what to do." If they, regardless if it's under warranty or out of warranty, or it doesn't matter, anyone that's got a good business model will sit there and say, "Look, take the pieces that you have," because I'm sure the barrel's not going to explode. I can see a polymer frame exploding. I'm not going to say the barrel's going to. You'll at least be able to find out something inside that barrel. They'll probably say, "Send it to us. Pick up the parts that you can find." To us. At least they
Uh-oh.
Okay, so I'm not the only one hearing this, that the robot's
No,
got him?
that's me too.
He is ground to a halt.
Question does not compute.
For a second.
Makes logic trap Ghost explodes. Ah!
First thing they're probably going to want to know is, were you shooting reloads or were you shooting factory ammo? I'm sure.
Yeah, they'll definitely ask about ammo, because I've seen when I had my FFL, I saw a bunch of things. I even saw a gun where somebody actually was shooting reloads and they put the wrong powder in the reloads.
Ooh, yeah.
And there was a kaboom, and it was a Glock. And Glock did charge them a nominal fee and took the frame back and replaced the frame on them. I think it was like $150. They took the gun back and replaced his frame for him.
That's really not that bad.
No, and
yeah, the first thing they'll do is blame the ammo. My buddy's dad was shooting a Marlin lever gun in 44, and it blew up on him. The barrel did, and the very first thing they did was that was the ammo.
I'll tell you, I saw a Springfield XDM where someone had a squib load and then didn't realize it and sent the second round down the barrel.
Oh,
the barrel hung in there. It did not explode. It bulged really bad. His competition was over. But even then, Springfield, I think it was $175. They sent the gun in, they cut the barrel out, put a new barrel in, and shipped it back to them. So it's been these manufacturers, especially these name brand manufacturers, they're pretty good at working with you, even if it's your own fault. I see thumbs up.
are you back with us?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Can you hear
Yes.
me?
Oh, he's gone again.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. Yes, we can hear you.
Okay.
See?
That's weird. Who knows? Anyways, so what did I miss?
Okay. So we all agreed Ghost is
Am I
like the
really-
greatest guy in the world,
Am I
and
gone?
we didn't talk any crap behind his back while he was gone, right?
Mm-mm.
Can you hear me?
Yes,
Yeah.
we can hear you.
Jacob then follows
Jeez.
up with, what if the manufacturer is no longer in business, or do you do not know if there was a warranty to begin with? Well, as I said out in the chat, if the manufacturer is no longer in business, then you should probably just count your lucky stars that you're still alive and whole and move on, because there's nobody else going to make it good for you.
No.
All right, I guess
No,
I'm
not
going to do it for my phone. Can y'all hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Yeah. We can hear you.
I can do it for my phone, so it's all good. I don't know. Go ahead. Continue on, folks.
So
Defense Dad says you must have gotten a budget router and modem.
It's been weird the last couple weeks. It's just, and it's only StreamYard. I don't know. Everything else, it's all good, but StreamYard has been acting really finicky lately. I don't know why. Not sure.
Says the troll dolls got them. They need their leader.
That's fair. All right. I'm going to get on the YouTube for the chat on my computer, so I can see that. I can't really see on this phone, but let's see here. So Jacob, did y'all cover what Jacob asked about what if the manufacturer is no longer in business? Did y'all cover that?
Yeah, my thought was
Okay.
count your lucky stars and move on, because no one's going to make it right for you then.
Yeah. All right. So I want to touch on the next 10 minutes, and let's kind of transition from firearms over to like optics, gear, accessories, all of that kind of stuff. We all know that there is the Chinesium stuff out there with red dots and all that, which I think for what they are, there are some out there that are actually pretty decent. But when we're talking about, let's say optics, for instance, you can go and spend $30, $35 on a red dot, and it's going to work for a little bit. But over time, does it lose zero? What happens if you drop it? Is the glass worth a damn? There's a lot of things that, once again, I would say if you're looking to figure out, once again, if you need something, then go get it. If you need to fill a purpose today, and you need it in 2 days, go get yourself a Fiachi or one of those red dots that it was going to last you for a little bit until maybe you go get something else. They will work. They will run for what you need to do. But what you need to understand also is when you're talking about a red dot for $30, the best thing that I can say about them is if you don't have a necessity for it tomorrow or the next day, but you're thinking about, you've never run, let's say, a red dot, and you don't know if you will like red dots, then you can go and spend $400 or $500 on a red dot, or you can go and spend $30 or $40 on a red dot to at least see if you like the red dot. If you like a reflex or a tube red dot or holographic or, whatever, a prism dot or whatever. There's something to be said about finding something cheaper for the time being, just to see if you like it before you go and buy. Same thing as a budget gun. Is if you're going to go get your first gun, as let's say it's going to be a Taurus or a Canik or whatever, but your ultimate goal is to get that HK, then you can either wait to get that HK, but you don't know if you like guns or not. So maybe you go and get that budget firearm or that budget optic to see if you like it. And then once you sit there and say, okay, I don't like this kind of red dot, I like the tube red dot, or I don't like a tube, I like the open sight reflex or whatever it is, and you've only spent $30, $40 on those, then you can go and say, now let's go and find the best one of this style. Is that something you guys have either utilized or would recommend people to do? And we'll start with Rogue. Go for it.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I've had some people that came through my shop that are, I don't know about this. Like, just go buy a cheap red dot, play with it, and have fun with it. And then after you play with it and you understand what you like, now go look for what's going to be your permanent solution. I've also seen people that come through where, well, my kid likes this. Well, my God, don't go out and spend $300 on a red dot for your kid. The kid's going to go drop the gun or do whatever, and go get a cheap one. The cheap ones have their place, but like you said, are they going to hold their zero over time? Probably not. But they do have their place of learning. So go learn. I mean, if you've never shot through a scope, well, don't go out and spend $2,000 on the scope until you learn how to shoot through a scope. There's so many different reticles of a scope. Go buy cheap ones with different reticles. Maybe you want mil dot over over this, over that. Go buy a couple, shoot them, find out what you like, and then go buy your permanent solution afterwards.
Steve out there says, what's a different MOAs? There may not be a difference in MOA. You can go get a 1-3 MOA and for $30, you can go and get one for $300. What you're usually talking about, honestly, this is my experience, and I'll let you guys jump in here anytime you want. My experience with the cheap red dot versus, let's say a $50 red dot versus a $250 red dot is durability, how long it will hold a zero, but ultimately it comes down to a lot of times the glass being just not very good quality glass on that red dot. But ultimately you're going to be able, a $50 red dot is going to run just as well as a $250 red dot. It just might only run for 6 months versus 3 years or whatever. Yeah. That's typically going to be the longevity, and holding zero is really what you're talking about. Because let's be honest, if you really want to know the truth, most of your $200 red dots are the exact same thing that they're selling on Amazon for $50 with a different name on there. Sometimes it might be a paint blemish or something like that. But most of these $200 red, let's say most Holosuns and all of them, they're made in the same factory as the Fiatchis over in China. And there might be a little blemish. The Fiatchis, the quality control with a paint blemish may not have made it through the quality control for XYZ company. So Fiatchi's like, well, we're just going to put our name on it. But most of them come from the same factory, guys. I'm not saying all of them, but a lot of them come. It's a lot of your favorite brand of red dots are coming from the same factory as the Amazon ones. That's the reality of it. Sorry to hear it. What do you guys think about the question of whether MOAs, or what is, in your opinion, the main difference between, let's say, the Amazon red dot and a $200-$300 red dot? Go ahead and jump in.
Durability.
Yeah.
Or none. Durability. It's those the $30 red dots are not going to last you as long as something as say Sig Romeo 5. It just isn't going to happen. Plus,
by the way, isn't going to be that much more. Honestly, it's not that much more expensive.
yeah,
those Romeo great ones for a great budget price. Bushnell, you can get a great Bushnell or Sig for $150, $200.
Yep.
They're going to blow the pants out of some of the higher brand Vortexes and all that are at the same price.
Yeah. Love my Romeo 5.
A lot of it depends on use, but anytime you're talking about electronics, you're right that a lot of brands, and whether we're talking televisions, MP3 players, red dots, really doesn't matter. A lot of the things you've got the same manufacturing company actually builds for a lot of different brands, and it's a QC thing, not just a QC with like blemishes and things like that, but with internal components, with wiring, with solder joints, with a lot of different things. And that's where you get that reliability factor where, okay, can you buy the $30 one and you may get lucky and the first one may last you years if you're using it on a 22 or something like that, or do you got to buy 3 to finally get a good one where you could have just bought the $100 one to start with? And so I think that you should look into some of the other options, because there's not a lot of difference between $30 and $100 necessarily. Which, going from the Piachi, whatever, to, let's say, a Sight Mark, right? You're taking a pretty good bump for an extra, maybe $50 or $60, as opposed to an extra couple of $100. What kind of a jump are you getting, and is that something that's feasible for you? But I go back to use. If you're plinking around in the backyard, who cares?
Yeah, if you're plinking around in the backyard, get the $30 Chinesium. It ain't going to make a difference.
Or if you've never owned one and you want to know if you're going to like a red dot or what style of dot, because there's a lot of different styles of dots out there. Well, I really recommend doing that.
So there's something to be said, right? I mean, we're talking about budget. So, I mean, economics and money issues, financial issues and stuff come into play here. So let's say you're a person that has, you buy several guns a month, or, whatever, say even one a month, right? They would rack up really quick. And so you're a person that's an opportunistic buyer, right? And so anytime there's a deal, you never really know when you're going to buy a new one, right? There's something to be said about having some cheap optics and stuff laying around, because let's say you get getting it out of the handgun personal defense and getting it into some other things. Let's say you pick up a rifle at a really good price, and it has a lot of rifles nowadays don't have open sights, right? So do you have some extra rings on a scope, something just sitting around that you can throw on it, that you can take it out and play with it until you decide what type of glass or optic or whatever you want to put on it, right?
Yeah.
There's something to be said about that. And I mean, it's a lot easier to pick up a Piachi 3 to 9 by 40 and, which may even come with a set of rings, for $50 than it is, $300-$400 on a scope. You could pick up 2 or 3 of those along the way. Maybe you pick up some pawn shop finds and some other things. And then you've always got something there to at least take it out and make sure that everything works properly, like the firearm works properly, particularly if you're into buying stuff on the secondary market, which a lot of people are that way. Somebody in the chat earlier, remember who it was, said, first thing they do when they go into a gun shop or a pawn shop or whatever is they go straight for the used section.
Yeah, and let's remember, and speaking of budget, and I got a text, and I don't know who it was. They didn't say who it was, and that's okay. What about buying firearms at the big box stores? They're usually $50 to $75 cheaper. That is true, but understand this. First of all, whoever it was, thank you for sending that text. I wish you would say who it was. But understand this, and this is not always a case, but let's just say Glock. Okay, a lot of Glocks that you can go to Academy and buy might be $50, $75 cheaper than you can buy them pretty much anywhere else. But I'm just using Glock as an example. But XYZ company, they're not the exact same guns that you're going to buy elsewhere. They have their own separate serialized because they know that they're going to sell something that may just be an internal part. It might be just something a little bit different. It might be a little bit cheaper to build or whatever. But those guns are not always the exact same gun that you could buy at your LGS. What do you guys think about buying guns from big box stores? Go ahead and speak freely.
Hey man, I talk about it all the time. The most guns I ever purchased in a 24-hour period was a sale at Academy.
I think guns at Academy, I'm not throwing anything against them. I'm just saying, but they sometimes aren't the same.
Sometimes they are not. If we're talking Walmart, I can almost assure you they are not. And a lot of times you can tell that by running the serial number. Most firearms, whether it's Bass Pro, Cabela's, Academy, your quote unquote sporting goods stores anyway. Most sporting goods stores, it's not the same as Walmart. And that's not as big of an issue, but along the same, you got to be careful. Are you getting the same, is it the same model? Is it the same feature? Right. So there's a difference between that model was created for whatever store that was, and nothing was really changed on it, right? Maybe it comes in a different finish, maybe it comes with a different type of stock, or it comes with in a combo package. You see that a lot, right? Where it comes with a scope, with something like that, right?
And so there's that plastic gun case that might be
right. There's a very small, subtle difference. There's no difference really with the firearm, right? With the mechanics and the operation. With Walmart in particular, and I know this on several different models. There's a difference in the trigger. There's a difference in the action. There's a lot of, the way the safety operates, the way where the screw holes are, it's like a completely different freaking model. And with that, I would be leery and be paying attention to that. But on the flip, again, with Academy, with Bass Pro, with Cabela's, with those types of outlets, heck, man, especially if you can hit a sale, I don't have a problem with it.
Anybody else with experience with? I've bought guns from Academy. I've bought guns from big stores.
I have too.
So go ahead. Anyone got some ad before?
I've bought plenty of guns at Academy. However, I would stop short of buying all my guns at a big box store. I mean, there's something to be said of finding somebody local who you can build a relationship with by, relying on them to have what you need and stuff like that. And they will usually work with you too. And then they're always there to supply what you need. And you're keeping a small business in business. I mean, Academy's always going to be there, but your local gun shop down the street may not.
Well, but here's the thing. Here's the thing too. Something that very, very seldom or rarely you see or can get at the big box stores is used firearms. And the local gun shops have a pretty good monopoly when it comes to, a lot of times, and a pretty good selection, a lot of them, of used firearms. And also, not only are they kind of boutique in that fashion that sets them apart from the big box stores, but if you think about it for a minute, local gun shops probably have a lot larger margin on the used firearms than they do a new firearm, especially right now. So by shopping, I don't see you taking away as much by buying a new firearm on sale at a big box store from a local gun shop as if you wasn't buying used firearms. I mean, as long as you're buying your used stuff at the local gun shop, I think that's where it's at, because I think that's where they're making their money. And plus their accessories, and we've talked about that before. Even if you're going in there to visit, pick up a pack of targets, pick up a whatever, a set of scope rings, a cleaning mat, some hoppies, something, right?
I used to say that, I could never really compete against the big box stores. Now, I cannot compete with them head to head on pricing. There's just no way. I don't have the buying power. But what I used to tell people is the one place that I can compete against a box store is that there is no way that they can offer the customer service that I do. I can smoke a big box store any day in customer service. When you're sitting there in front of me, you have my attention. You're not having the person behind the counter moving around and trying to deal with 30 other customers. And I was a very, very small shop. So, I was the business. So yeah, trust me, you can't, small gun dealers can't compete against a large big box store. They can be there. They can answer your questions. They'll, for me, if you just don't know what you're going, if I had someone who bought a gun that obviously had no idea what they're doing with that gun, they would not leave until I was comfortable that they knew what they were doing. Even when they bought something online, I was just doing a gun transfer. It was a $15 to $20 gun transfer, but I made sure that when you left that shop, I was confident that you at least knew enough about the gun to not absolutely kill yourself the second you step out the door with it. So there's other things for the local gun shops, but like Clover said, there are used guns. That's where their margins are, because they're buying those things and bringing and reselling them. I made a lot of my money off of surplus, the trade-ins, the trading guns, the police trading guns. That's where I made my money. I did not make money on a new gun. I would take my gun and mark it up $20 if it was a new gun, and even with $20 profit on that gun, essentially I was just I was selling you the gun at cost and charging you a transfer fee. I still couldn't compete against a big box store. So you choose where you buy your guns. I just bought a Glock for a project that I'm working on. I went all around town. There was only one place that had that Glock, and it was a big box store. So I walked in and got it because I needed that gun for an engagement that I was working on. Did I feel sorry for it? Yeah, they were the last place I went. I went everywhere else before then. But being a business owner, I understood. I know I couldn't compete, and I had no problems with admitting that.
Yeah. Real quick, I want to do a quick shout out to R4 Mississippi Thunder out there. R4 is the newest member of the Ghost Squad over on Patreon, so thank you so much. That happened earlier today. Thank you so much for that. Appreciate your support. Got another text from the same person. Whoever out there is sending text without their name, they may not want us to know who they are. That's cool. I get it. I understand that. Question comes in. This is a good one. We were talking earlier. Clover was talking earlier about building and having extra parts. And the question is if you're going to buy an AR and replace most of the essential parts, do you typically keep those parts? The answer is yes, because I think everyone in this room has enough parts lying around that you could probably build a whole nother, let's say an AR. You could build a whole nother AR just from parts you have from other ARs that you've taken out and replaced or whatever. So if you're going to do that, then absolutely keep all those parts as much as you can, because you never know. You very well could end up very quickly being able to build a whole brand new AR with parts from other rifles. Go ahead.
There's another component to that as well. The one that I practice is that I see it a lot. I see somebody buys a firearm, whatever it might be. You pick the thing, right? And they replace this and they replace that and they upgrade this and they upgrade that. And then they go to get rid of it and they're like, they want 18 prices for it because it's been all tricked out to their liking. And it's like, well, I don't want to pay that price. I don't want all that garbage on it. I just want whatever the stock firearm was. That's what I'm looking for, right? So if you keep your parts, you can always put it back into original configuration and sell it if you need to, and then turn around and sell the parts separately. So it gives you options with liquidating in the event that you've got to do that. If you build it up, change everything out, and you don't keep those parts for whatever reason, hopefully you're not throwing them away. But let's just say you decide, I'm going to throw these up as a kit on eBay. You can do it nowadays, or Gunbroker or anywhere, and get a few bucks for it. It's what you're thinking. Well, I can buy a box or two ammo or whatever, right? If I sold these extra parts, and then you pigeonhole yourself later on when the rent's due and you've lost your job or whatever the case may be, and nobody wants to buy your $900 tricked out, Glock that you could have easily sold for $500 if you put the original parts back in it.
Yep.
Or even the second step is if you need quick cash for whatever, if you'll go through that and you're able to sell an AR, but you spent a lot of money on those upgraded parts and you kept those originals, you can put the originals back in, keep those updated and upgraded parts for when you are able to buy another AR down the line. You can always put those upgraded parts back into your new one if you want to.
Yeah, depending on what kind of quick cash you need. Sure, right?
Exactly. Sure, absolutely. Yeah.
Or now you've got, or even better, you've got all those upgraded parts, right? So instead of you sell that original rifle, you've got all those upgraded parts, whatever those might be. You just simply, now that you've got all the experience of swapping out parts, instead of buying a whole nother rifle this next go around, you just buy the parts you need to finish it out.
Absolutely. Mike, Gary.
I know very seldom does anybody on the used market give two shits about what upgraded parts you have in it.
I don't, not one bit.
Yeah. Well, at least giving two shits about paying more for those upgraded parts.
Exactly.
So if they're not willing to pay more for it, then go ahead and put the originals back in and sell it for whatever,
Yep.
Anybody else have anything on that question? Thanks again to the mystery person. I'm not going to call them mystery names. It might be a woman, but the mystery person out there who's sending a couple great questions in. I appreciate it. But anybody have anything you want to bring up on that, or are we ready to move on?
I've changed out sights on a gun, kept the old sights, kept magazine face plates where I got up, or the base plates, got updated base plates. I still got the old ones. They're in a plastic bag somewhere in my little chest over here. I can put them back on anytime, or if somebody needs one, I've got one for them too. So why throw them away?
Yeah. I don't understand the whole concept. I mean, why wouldn't you keep them? But who knows?
The other thing is you keep your parts. So if you break something, you just put the original part back in.
I've got I don't know if you can see, but that tackle box right there, particular one, is full of springs and firing pins and Picatinny rails. I mean, just smaller parts for different ARs that I've changed out in all my different ones over the years. That whole tackle box is full of those original parts, and I've got them separate in baggies so that I know exactly what rifle they came off of. So it's just one of the things. I keep everything. Yeah, there you go. And there's no telling. Like I said, there's no telling how many ARs that. If you just take the 5 of us, just in this panel, you take the extra parts that we have, how many actual ARs that we could probably build, no problem, Clover himself would probably build 20 of them, if not more. I know he doesn't throw
an
anything.
Upgraded trigger in a gun, you sell that thing. Might as well put the original trigger back in it.
That's right.
Yeah. Now, Jacob out there, he's saying, are all AR parts interchangeable across all manufacturers, or are there exceptions? So, for the most part, when you're talking AR-15, for the most part, yes.
Yeah, but you can't say all. You can't say all.
Yeah, you can't say all. Yeah, definitely the answer to the question.
If you see no circle in there, then that's what that's going to be. Is that's going to be tell you that they're all based off of the military configurations and sizes and all that. Most of those are all going to work together. But yeah, not all of them. But yeah, I'll agree. The vast majority will.
Right. And when you get off into AR-10, you've got a lot of variants there because you've got DPMS pattern and Armor Light pattern. So, and then multi-variants back and forth between the two and everything else. So that's be really careful for those out there. Do a lot of homework if you're looking at building an AR-10. That's the first thing I tell people. Make sure that you're dealing with parts that are going to interchange properly.
Yep. Awesome conversation, man. We still got a bunch of people out there. Is there anything else in the chat that you guys want us to cover when it comes to budget, whether it's knives, firearms, accessories, optics, whatever? Because I think we've kind of run the gamut. I think you kind of get where we're going with the term budget. But if there's any other questions out there before we start kind of sweeping the floor and all that, then throw those questions out there, because we'll be more than happy to answer them. Before, while you're doing that, while I'm waiting on that, I want to go ahead and start kind of running through the room. If there's a question that pops up, we'll definitely answer that. But Rogue, I want to bring you in first and say, first of all, thanks for coming on, bud. Appreciate you. Tell people who you are, what your mission is, and where they can find you.
Well, first of all, thanks for having me. And for everybody that served, thank you for your service. Something that's very important to me is to make sure that everybody's recognized for their service. For me, you can reach me on YouTube. My channel is The Rogue Banshee. At just about any social media platform is The Rogue Banshee. You can Google The Rogue Banshee and you will find me somehow. So, definitely check me out. I have I'm in what I call my winter content, which is a lot of disassembly and reassembly videos. And I'm already starting to work planning out my summer content coming up. So definitely check it out. And thank you so much for having me on.
Yeah, no problem. Well, here's one for the panel right now. Steven out there says suppressors. There are, it's funny, but there are kind of quote unquote budget level suppressors as well. Clover, you probably, I would imagine
you get what you pay for.
This. Yeah,
you get what you pay for with the suppressor. I can absolutely promise you that. Now, again, it goes back into use a little bit. So what are you looking for? So you're looking for something to be hearing safe as far as shooting supersonic ammunition. In other words, you're not looking for the absolute quietest possible. You're going to run subsonic. You want to take, this 308, make it sound like a pellet rifle or even quieter. Then you can get by with a cheaper can for sure. But if you're looking to go as quiet as possible, as much decibel reduction as possible in sound, you're going to have to get up there in money. You're going to have to pay for quality. You're going to have to go Yankee Hill Machine. You're going to have to go with Thunder Beast Arms. You're going to have to go with SIG. You're not going to be able to get, stay on the lower end. Let's say the $400, $500, $600 suppressors. Most of those are not going to do you nearly good of a job on the quiet end. Again, if you're concerned with it being as quiet as possible, and honestly, a lot of people with suppressors aren't. They just want to be able to go out and it be somewhat sort of hearing safe without having to have all the ear pro.
What about reliability? Not reliability, longevity. I would imagine that some of the less expensive suppressors might not have the shelf life of the higher end. Is that correct?
Yeah, you get into a little bit of that, especially if you're running them on full auto or something like that, right? Where they're constantly taking a beating and a lot of heat. But for the most part, the tech is down pretty good. I've got 4-1s I built myself that hold up and do just as well as the store-bought stuff, right? So you're talking about steel, you're talking about stainless steel, you're talking about aluminum, you're talking about the same raw materials being used. Now, when you get up into the more expensive stuff, you start getting up into titanium and some things like that. And absolutely, they're going to hold up. They're going to just take a beating and hold up a lot better because it's different types of material. But again, you're going to pay for that.
Yep. Anybody else want to comment on the suppressor side? I don't have any to comment because I've never owned one. So,
well, another thing that's a point of contention with some of the more expensive stuff, you can actually take down a lot easier and clean, where some of your cheaper stuff is like welded shut. So, in order to really clean that, you kind of have to use a sonic cleaner, and it's kind of a pain in the butt to clean those out. Where some of the more expensive, you can unscrew the end caps, you can pull the monocore of the baffles out, and actually use solvent and brush and get them clean as a whistle, literally, and put everything back together. So something to pay attention to there as well.
Absolutely. Anybody else want to jump in on that? Nope, I don't have any. Okay.
Nope.
A question was brought up, and it was not really about it, but Defense Dad was talking about holsters, and we never really talk about holsters. So, obviously, if you're talking about a leather holster, and I don't particularly like leather holsters, but if you're into leather holsters, then you're obviously just like leather shoes. Chances are the lower price leather holster is not going to last you as long, or might not be as good of leather as the higher end. But when it comes to a Kydex holster, a Kydex holster is a Kydex holster. Let's be honest about it. Whether you're paying $40 for it or $125 for it, a Kydex holster is a Kydex holster. So if you find a holster that fits your gun, that is comfortable to you, then you're not, as far as quality goes, chances are, now maybe so the buckle or whatever might be a little bit better, but chances are they're using plastic buckles anyways. Chances are, if you can find a holster, like I like Klinger and We the People holsters. I can put a Klinger holster or a We the People holster for about $40 on any of my carry guns. And I love the way they feel. They're great. Can I go buy a T-Rex Arms holster for $120? Absolutely. But is that holster any better quality than the other less expensive brands? Kydex is Kydex. So when it comes to holsters, I think that you're probably safer to say a budget holster is going to, as far as Kydex goes, you're probably going to be okay with a lesser cheap. I would even say going to Phobos, which isn't even Kydex, is a plastic holster. Phobos, I've got a ton of Phobos holsters that aren't Kydex, they're plastic. You can get them for $25. They work. They do their job. So holsters are a lot, to me, they're a lot like anything else, but you're going to find a company eventually that you like. And that's why I have either and. Most of them I have both, We the People and a Klinger holster for all of my carry guns. I just like both those companies. They do well for me. I like the way they feel. They fit right, and all of that. So when it comes to holsters, you're probably more able to go with a lower end Kydex than you would other accessories. I think you can get away with that much easier. What do you guys think about holsters?
What you said.
Okay. All right. I'm looking through there, trying to find more questions or anything. Gary, you're up next. Tell people who you are, what you're doing, and where they can find you.
Well, I'm Gizzard Gary on most of your social media platforms. I primarily come at reviews and stuff from the viewpoint of a new gun owner, because I've only been a handgun owner now for 6 years, so I still feel like I'm fairly new into this versus the people who have been buying them, carrying them, owning them for most of their life. So I'm going to look at it that way. Would like to, while I have a chance, if you don't mind, promote the Gun Snob. The Gun Snob has a 20,000 sub giveaway coming up, and it's not just him, but Obnoxious One, Sarge, and myself all have milestones coming up for subscribers. So we are doing what we call a hens giveaway. And that will be announced on the Gun Snobs channel tomorrow evening around dinner time. So look for that. They're going to be giving away a lot of cool stuff that we're all going in on. There's guns, there's knives, there's gear. So rather than promote myself, I'd like to promote the whole group of what we call the hens. So check that out. And thanks for having me.
You got it, buddy. And I'll promote for you. The Foul Territory podcast is Friday night at 8 Eastern, I believe.
9 o'clock Eastern, 8 Central.
No, 8 Central, 9 Eastern. Yeah, 8 Central. Sorry. I live in the Central time zone. I get screwed up with it. Great one, but a fun one that I look forward to every Sunday, because I'm usually at work and it helps me get through 4 hours of my day, is the Early Bird Chat over on his channel, and it runs from 9 o'clock Central to 1 p.m. Central, 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. Central Zone. Great one. It's just people jump in and out, have a little open forum. Great fun. So go check that one out as well. We do have a question from Jacob S. I think it's interesting. He said, and I want to run this to the room real quick. What are the 4 things that you look at or consider before purchasing any product? I don't know if I have 4 things, honestly. I'll tell you what I think of first. Before I purchase a product, my first thing is, what's it going to be used for? What's the purpose of such product? Whether it's a firearm, an optic, whatever it is, what am I going to be using it for? And at that point, then I will look at what either come from recommendations or ones that I have used or whatever, and look at maybe if I try 3, 4, or 5 of them that I think that are going to be viable options. And then you look at price, but you sit there and you compare. I can get this one for $200, this one for $250, this one for $300. Now, the $300 one, does it give me enough of an advantage over the other 2 to be worthwhile to spend the extra money? Or can a $200 or $250 one give me the same thing without having to, lose quality and all that? So price usually is a factor, but the most important thing that I look at is what I'm using it for. I'm willing to spend more money on something that is going to be there for protection, saving mine and my family's life or whatever. I'm willing to spend a little bit more on that. So price is on the list, but it's down. The most important thing for me is what I'm using it for. And that's just me. Let's start with Mike on this one. Budget, what are 4 or whatever your criteria is when you're deciding on a product?
Real similar to what you just said. Is this something I need? No. Okay. Is this something I want? Yes, no, whatever. If it's something that I need or want, then is this in a price range that I can afford? What are my other options? And as you said, do any of those options best fill my needs with, is spending $50 more going to get me $50 or more worth of advantage out of it? Do I have a purpose for it? Whether it's something that I need to have for a specific reason or whether it's something I want to have just because I want it. And does the cost equal or exceed the value to me? And that's really what I'm looking at. Do I have an advantage with something else?
Yeah. To answer real quick, G23, when are you getting a 40 cal? Probably never. Not saying that I think it sucks. It's just, it's not something. If I'm going to get something like that, I'm either going to go 357 SIG, which I love that caliber, or I want to go ahead and go to 10 millimeter. No offense, but the 40 does not give me it. What's that?
The best millimeter.
That's fake news, but that's a debatable comment. Now, but to me, the 40 cal does not ever give me. Everyone knows I love 9. The 40 does not give me a ballistic or any kind of advantage to me enough to change from a 9. If I'm going to go up, I'm going to go 357 SIG or 10 millimeter. That's just me. So I probably won't ever own a 40. That's just, I'm not trying to be mean. That's just not my thing. Let's go to Rogue about your criteria and what you look at when you are thinking about a purchase.
I would say that purpose first, want/need second, reliability third, and price fourth. So, do I have a specific purpose for this purchase? Do I want it or do I need it? Is it going to last me? And then I'll figure out the price afterwards. And if there's multiple things that fulfill that need, then I have to start weighing the price, the price between them. If everything's equal, then price is the tiebreaker.
Absolutely. I think that's a great one. And I think that's probably where most are going to fall. If all things are equal, then obviously I'm not dumb enough to spend more if I can get the exact same thing for $50 cheaper or whatever. So sure, understand. Gary, what about you? What are you looking at when you're looking at a purchase?
Well, I think everything everybody else said, but you also got to take into account, okay, have I already spent X amount of money on firearms this month? How's my bank account look? Are all the bills paid? Is there extra money in there? stuff like that. But sometimes you look at practicality, and sometimes you got a purpose. Man, I really want X caliber because I've never shot that before. I've bought guns based on just that alone. I've bought guns based on ammo availability. I mean, I bought a 22 Magnum revolver just because that's all I could find at the store. Ended up loving the gun, and I would have tried it otherwise. But sometimes it's just something simple as that, or just a Jones. I'd like to try this. I'd like to try that. As far as practicality goes, if that was your only criteria, nobody would own a NAA mini revolver, and I own 2 of those. But sometimes it's just something you want. But
Absolutely.
does the value
Well,
to you justify the cost that they're asking for it? Is the cost that they're asking for it within the realm of reasonable? Have you done research? I always do. I find out what's it going for everywhere else. So, are they charging way too much for this? You got to know that before you go in there and just start throwing money on the table. So, other things to consider.
Yeah, and I think what you said and Rogue had mentioned, but Mike brought it up originally, is want versus need. 2 completely different conversations internally. There's a lot of stuff that I want, but I'm more apt to buy something that I feel like I need before I buy something I want. So obviously that is a huge component of the decision-making process. Great point by all of you guys. Clover, I know you just buy things just to buy stuff. Sometimes they're just for, if you get a good deal, you might not even want it or need it, but you find a good deal. But when you do look into something that you're going to purchase, what are some of your criteria?
So once if it's a want, I mean, it's kind of out the window, right? I just do use, and it's based, what I said earlier, it's based on use and expectation more than anything. And hey, this is a good deal, whatever. So, I've practiced good consumership, if that's what you want to call it, for many years. I mean, there used to be this thing called JD Pirate Associates. There used to be this thing called Consumer Reports. So whether it was a washer, a dryer, a refrigerator, a car stereo, whatever, you look at a few different factors, and brand. And in the firearm world, brand gets knocked a lot, but you got to take a look at brand and model. And one of the things, again, this is not specific to firearms, but I want to know, how long has this model been out? Is this a legacy model product that's been around forever? It's tried and true. How easy is this to maintain or work on or deal with later on? Because odds are, if it's easier to maintain, then it's probably more reliable as well. And then if that's the case, internal parts, what are product A versus product B? Is this got, you're talking about features and things like that, right? Is this got the bigger engine or the, larger capacitors or voltage required, whatever, right? Translate that however you may over into the firearm world. But comparing one to the other, because one may be considerably more expensive. We're talking washing machines, for example, because instead of having an old dial timer, it's got an LED control panel. And then really that's the only difference. And you're paying several $100 for for having LED lights on it. So is that really practical? Does that really matter? And then, look into, again, when you're talking about the brand and or the model, looking into the history of that, right? Trying to get a little bit of feedback on not only does this have a history of recalls or issues or whatever, but what is the service like, right? Is there many people out there that's talking about the service experience should something go wrong? Because any company, no matter how great their products are and how high level their quality control are, sometimes things just get out of the factory. It happens. I know a I know a lady, a gentleman and his wife that bought a brand new Cadillac, literally went home, packed it up, and went out on a road trip and got a couple hours down the road, and dropped the transmission in the stupid thing. Brand new Cadillac, right? So things happen. It does happen. And in the event they happen, what seems to be the consensus on, the company taking care of the customer, right? That customer service aspect. So be some of the things I would recommend.
Yeah. Donkey Puncher out there. Love that name, by the way. Donkey Puncher. That's awesome. Love it. Says, would be a fair asking price for HK VP9 with only 100 rounds fired? Probably, I'll put it out there in the chat. Honestly, probably 750, 800, I think is a fair price. You can probably maybe get more out of it. But a fair price for both sides would be that 800-ish mark. Maybe a little bit less, maybe a little bit more, but that's probably a fair price, only 100 rounds, because, hell, 100 rounds is nothing on the VP9. That's not even breaking it in. So I would say about $800. What do you guys think?
I'm going to need about 350.
There you go. If you've got a VP9 for 350, let me know, and I will buy it now.
I just wanted to say that.
Right now, I will wire you the money.
I don't know, man.
It might burn you.
You know, I mean, I see them for around. I see them for.
Yeah, you asked me a year ago. It's probably about between 600 and 700, but right now between 700 and 800 is a fair price.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, around. I still see them even now. Some places around closer to the 600 range. So, if you, but you said, I mean, if you can get 750, if you're the one selling it and you can get 750, get 750. I don't have a problem with that.
VP9 is one of my favorite guns I've ever shot. I will own a VP9 eventually. I love that gun. Really do. Really do. I'm a big HK fan. Really am. They make good quality stuff. Go ahead. What were you saying?
I said, gee, couldn't tell.
Yeah, I know.
We were talking about the MP5 earlier. Now you're all fanboy over the VP9. Yeah.
I do love the VP9, and people are very aware that the real MP5, not the SP5 or whatever, the real MP5 is one of my favorite guns that I've ever shot, ever. And if I could ever own a real MP5, I could. It's just going to cost me an arm and a leg and some paperwork, but I would. I definitely would.
To back up, somebody in the chat, we were talking about I think it was Jacob that brought up whatever the purchase decision stuff. Somebody brought up a really good point. I don't remember who it was, but I seen it scroll by. Dang, let's see if I can find it. Who was it? It was Pat out there. He says mass production is always a factor, and it can be in a good way, because what I would add to that is mass production usually. If they're mass produced, there's a lot of them out there. Then usually there's a lot of aftermarket support and other things too. And so, can you get parts, right? And things like that. If it's some rare, obscure little company that's building something or whatever, if something happens and you're outside of the warranty period, whatever it might be, are you going to be able to find parts to get the thing fixed? That's
there's something else no one's really even touched on, and you kind of alluded to it when you were talking about companies' reputation, all that, but customer service in general by XYZ company could play a role and be at the side. If you go that deep into the list, customer service might play a role into some of those decisions. So who knows? That's just, there are so many different variables, but the thing is don't use our variables and our criteria. You have to come up with your own criteria of what is important to you when looking into not just firearms, but anything, a TV, a car, whatever it is.
Yeah.
You have to come up with your own criteria. Go ahead.
It's something that especially as gun tubers, right? I'm sure all of you guys notice it a lot, and other folks out there. I see a lot of folks that they're looking for confirmation bias, right? It's like they really want whatever product XYZ is, right? And they really, really want it. And all they're looking for is people to tell them they want it, or they need, tell them that they need to buy it, right?
Yep, absolutely.
Step out of that mold somewhat. Step back, 30,000 foot view, expand your mind, however you want to put it. And look at some different sources. If you can find them. Now, you may want a really good product, whatever it might be, that there's just not a lot of bad press or anything on.
Right.
And that's fine too. But what I'm saying is don't just think, okay, I want XYZ, and the first YouTube video you come to or online article or whatever it might be is a 5-star rating, everything's great. You go, I knew it, and order it. Keep kind of looking around and seeing, what is a consensus of the folks that have handled this product and used this product. What do they all say collectively?
Absolutely. one thing that you're going to have to understand also is when we're talking about that 30,000 foot view, and I think Clover has either brought it up is, if what is the reputation of that company for a long time? Everyone's going to have, like I said, everyone's going to put out a bad gun. That's just the reality. But if a company consistently puts out good guns, the Rugers, the Colts, the Smith & Wessons, the Walthers, the HK, the SIGs, the Glocks, these companies have been around for a long, long, long time. There is a reason for that. And I'm not saying don't go towards a newer company, because there could be some innovative companies that are amazing. But you also have to look at, there's a lot of companies that you won't see a year from now. And you're just finding parts and color. What if those companies go under? That's just something that, the reality is that. Let's go to Mike real quick and say, Mike, tell people, who the hell are you? What are you doing out there, and where can they find you?
I'm Mike with Budget Guns and Gear Reviews. You can find me on pretty much any social media using either Budget Guns and Gear Reviews or Budget Guns and Gear as a search term. I review what we're talking about, budget guns and gear. That's my thing. I also do a live stream / podcast every Friday night at 11:30 p.m. Eastern called The Right of the People, where we use the first to defend the second. We talk about Second Amendment related politics, news, and current events, although there may be a change to that coming up in the nearish future. Might be moving that back to its original time slot of 7 p.m. Eastern, so stand by on that one. Not things. I got to see how things firm up. Let's see, in the very near future, like hopefully in the next couple 3 days, I will have a video coming out reviewing the Manus X10 Elite. Great product, by the way. Hint, hint. Spoiler alert, right? And I also have, let's see, I've done a series of articles for the Woox, WOOX. They are the company that made this knife that I reviewed a while back. And they asked me to do some blog posts for them. So I did that. So go check out the WOOXstore.com. And on their blog, that's all this guy. Also, I will probably be having some stuff coming out in the semi-near future, working with Atlanta Cutlery and Museum Replicas of all places. So hold on for that. Thanks for having me here tonight, man. I appreciate it.
Oh man, I love the once a month we get to hang out a little bit. So anytime, man. You're always going to get a link. It's just I know that with work schedules and all that, we get you about once a month, which is I'll take it. I'll take it, bro. I'll take it. Go check him out Friday night on the Right of the People. Probably, honestly, no offense to anybody else, probably my favorite podcast of the week of my friends. Just because I love when you get fired up, man. You just absolutely, there are times when you go ape shit ballistic, and I love it when you do that. It gets me fired up. And it sucks is I usually am watching it and listening to it in bed, and I'll get fired up and I'll do something or I'll say something to my wife, like, what the fuck are you doing? I'm like, oh, I'm listening to Budget, But,
I was the first wound up some bitch of the week. So yeah, there's a reason.
Yes, you were. Yes, you were. Thanks to Midnight Reigns TM for that distinction, I believe, was it not?
Yep. Yes, it was.
All right. Clover Tack. I would give you time to talk about, I know you don't do anything. So if you were to do something, tell people what you would do and where they can find you.
Hey, unlike the past few weeks, I actually dropped the video today on time.
Yes, you did. I noticed that.
I know, right? How awesome was that?
Did you set it up? Did you set up like a reminder on your phone or something?
No, I didn't. It just worked out that way.
Gotcha.
But
what do you got going on? You got any come down the funnel?
Yeah, I mean, tomorrow going to be, for those that don't know, I do the Clover Tack podcast, and when we do those, I just go live at random times whenever the guest is available to do that, and then record them, and then of course release them into the podcast world. But when they're live, everybody out there is, if you get the notification or whatever, yeah, you're more than welcome to jump in, ask questions, comment, participate. That's kind of what it's about. Tomorrow, I've got what is it? A Security Tactical, which is some safes and other things, is what they make. I've got the CEO, them coming on. We're going to record. And then Friday, I've got our good friend, many of us here, I think, have met and know, Mark from Umarex and Axion Optics. Mark's going to jump on, and we're going to talk about some of the new products with Axion Optics and Umarex Friday. Also tomorrow, I'm going to jump on. I go to the first annual Shooting Sports Showcase. To cover that, there's going to be a lot of different brands there and stuff. Headed to Talladega Monday for that. So I'm going to do a quick podcast, maybe 30 minutes or so tomorrow. So jump in if you've got time. We're going to kind of go over that event since it says the first annual and kind of talk about what it's about, what's going on, who's supposed to be there, that sort of thing, and then maybe get some ideas of what people want me to cover, contacts I need to make while I'm there, that sort of thing. So yeah, a lot going on.
There you go. Yeah, I woke up this morning and had a message from Mark on my phone saying that talking about some new products he wants to send and all that. So here, he's only a couple hours away, so it works out. Now, probably it'll take longer to ship something within the state of Arkansas than it would if I was getting it from somewhere else. That's just the way it goes. But yeah, right. Mark's awesome, dude. Really awesome, dude. Was it a couple of years ago we actually met him in person when he was doing the podcast over at Wanamaker, was it not?
Yeah, he joined us for our little get together, and did a podcast with us, live podcast from our B&B in Tulsa. Sure did.
Awesome, dude. If you guys are surely familiar with Umarex, one of the greatest companies that does airsoft and all of that, but Axion. Am I saying it right? Am I saying that right? Axion
Optics, yeah. Axion Optics, Umarex, and Walther, pretty much kind of all the same, under the same umbrella for those. Walther USA.
They're definitely under the same roof because I've been there.
Yeah. Well, I mean, company wise, I don't want to lie about the structure, but they're kind of all somehow related to
sisters somehow. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks for coming on as well. Man, I still got a bunch of people out there watching. I want to tell you, for as far as what we've got going on, I'm very thankful for everyone that seems to be enjoying the Jarhead podcast. I am having a blast with this. I never thought that I would. Thursday, I have the latest episode we recorded last week with Charlie Melton. Charlie's a good friend of ours, and Clover's as well. But Charlie's a 26-year Navy SEAL sniper, been there, done it, Purple Heart, Bronze Star, was literally the Sailor of the Year for all SEAL teams at one point in his career. But he was also the sniper instructor, and he instructed guys like Marcus Luttrell from Lone Survivor. He was also Chris Kyle, the American Snipers instructor in sniper school. There's some interesting stuff about that as well in that podcast. So that'll be made public on Thursday.
Kind of a teaser for Charlie. Did he retell the hand grenade story or whatever?
No.
Oh, man.
We're going to it was interesting. We had some, how do I put this, technical difficulties with internet and phones and all of that. So it was a little over an hour podcast. We're going to get him on because we could have talked to Charlie for about 4 hours. And he's got some stories that are unbelievable. And, a story, one of them is the grenade was awesome. Another one,
people can go back and look on your channel because he was on the Tuesday podcast before here, and he told that story. So it's definitely worth the listen just for that story. So jump back and check that out if you hadn't.
He's also got a story that's my favorite story is he carried a 50 BMG once on a mission. And he had to engage someone at 70 yards with a 50 BMG. You can only imagine what that did to that poor soul.
I bet that was messy.
He said it was great for ballistic. What do you call it? Data, collecting ballistic data.
Right. I bet it was.
But that's gonna be dropped on Thursday. I've got so many people that are going to be coming on. I'm working on the contact once again with with Kyle Carpenter. Talked to Tonto today. Tonto's going to come on. I've got so many people that it's really fun. But more importantly, like I told Clover on the phone a couple of days ago, this actual podcast, not that I was losing interest in all that, I wasn't, but this has completely rejuvenated me. So I hope that you guys are enjoying it as much as I am making these and getting these stories from my friends. And it's just been a blast. But that one comes out Thursday. If you're a patron or a channel member, you've already had it for about a week. You can go and check it out. It's going to be on all the podcasts, but it'll also be on YouTube on Thursday. But Saturday, I've got the first video for the Taurus G3 coming out. I think by Friday, I'll have the new Gerson, which I'm really excited about. Gerson 3.5-inch 9mm 1911 coming in, which I'm really excited about. Talking about maybe I'll carry a 1911. That'd be kind of cool. But I got a lot of stuff coming down the road. But thanks for everyone that's always been watching and all of that. Thanks to all my patrons and channel members. I really do appreciate you guys. Yeah.
Can I pimp something else? I kind of forgot about it. Just remembered.
Pimp out, bro. Pimping ain't easy.
I got something else coming up for those who weren't paying attention to last Friday's show. If you're in the Northeast Ohio area, or can be in the Northeast Ohio area, around April 17th, I'm going to be teaching a basic survival workshop. Basically, going to show you how to make an emergency kit and use the stuff in it to do, important stuff like make fire, purify water, build shelter, secure food if you have to. So, I'm going to chuck a link to where you can link to the sign up page for that out in the chat.
Awesome. Yeah, go for it. Sarge is out there, says, when is 22 Hipster going to be making another appearance? So I introduced a character that I've been working on for a while. I've got some really cool, fun plans, but I introduced a new character to the channel with 22 Hipster. Clover kind of knows the idea of where I'm going to go with that. But yeah, so 22 Hipster was introduced, and he will be making several new appearances down the line. So yeah, be looking forward to that. Once again, thanks for everyone watching and listening. We still got 25 people out there that's lasted 2.5 hours long. God bless you all. If you made it this far in podcast form or in replay, then you hold a special place in my heart. You deserve a seat at the right hand of God for having the patience of Job. But the conversation doesn't have to end. Go ahead and use a comment. If you have any questions that we want to answer, even if they're not for me, go ahead and put them in those comments, and I'll get them to the respective people that needed to answer those questions, whether it's Rogue or Gary or Clover or Budget. I'll get those to them. Leave a comment. If you're listening to podcasts, please share it. Leave a rating. Especially if you're on Apple, rate it. Tell us to people if you like it or not. It helps the algorithms, if you will call it that. But thanks a lot. And we are, like to once again pimp out, we are a proud member of the Self-Defense Radio Network. And it's not just myself, it's a bunch of great podcasts out there that are part of the network. Go check them out at selfdefenseradio.net. And one of those shows is live as we speak over on Sandhill Shooters channel, the Get Off My Lawn podcast. So when you get done here, go over to Sandhill Shooter and say hello, tell them Ghost sent you, and go listen to that great podcast. But thank you so much for everyone for watching, listening. We'll talk to you soon. Semper Fi.